Hi, everyone. Welcome to Figuring Out Fabric, where I ask dumb questions and you get smart answers. And I'm excited to have Simon Sabin on to talk about SQL Bits, which is personally one of my favorite conferences. And, not just I'm not being paid to say that. Simon was a Microsoft MVP. He is co-founder of SQL Bits, and I believe I was told he is chief monkey. So he helps in whatever way run SQL Bits, and we're gonna be talking today about just session selection, keeping up with technology, education in general, all that kind of stuff.
Cool. Thanks for inviting me on.
Yeah. So, to give people some background context, I was on the organizing team for past summit right before it died and then came back. So I think I want to say I was on the organizing team like 2018 to 2020 or 2019, 2021, somewhere around there. And one of the really big challenges even back then was that things kept getting more and more fragmented. And so it used to be a decade ago that you could just cover a lot of SQL sessions, have a lot of 500 level, 400 level deep stuff, and you would be fine. But the trend was just getting more and more spread out. So now, we've got Fabric, which is so complicated it has its own conference. So like what are you kind of seeing right now, and what are like some of the challenges with figuring out what to cover with SQL Bits?
Yeah, it's year on year. It's one of the biggest challenges we face
Yeah.
as an industry. Like we aim to be more than just like SQL Server. People think SQL Bits is SQL Server, and the reality is like it's not. I think we're very proud of the fact that I think because we had like Chris Webb like in on board from sort of day
Mm.
one, we've always had lots of Power BI like content and analysis services content. It would have been analysis services back then. So we've always like had a broad spread, and that then leads to your problem that how do you provide a set of content that is a good representation of the industry of the
Yeah.
data fabric that we've got. And Probably the biggest challenge is finding the balance between not only the spread of like databases versus analytics versus reporting, but also the new versus the old stuff. Do you need
Yep.
stuff that is like analysis services, for instance? Like how much? I mean, we're literally like completing like the call for papers process as we speak, and going through and saying, well, yeah, do we need to list integration services and reporting services and analysis services? And I think the reality is that I think as RDs, MVPs, like we're very close to Microsoft and what's being built, and it's often easy to forget the fact that there are like a lot of people that in their day job are still using stuff that is even like 3 years old. I mean,
Yeah.
like how old's Fabric? I mean,
It's I think it just hit two, I want to say. It was because it came out in early 2023 and we're near the end of
yeah,
2025. So yeah, I mean it's two and a half years old.
yeah,
And it's rough because like you said, you have this pressure where Microsoft understandably wants to talk about the new stuff. Speakers often want to talk about the new stuff because they think it's going to get people in the audience or it's going to get views or whatever. Like I'm guilty of this a lot of times. But you're right, like people, not only do people move slowly, but also Fabric has the issue that it's expensive. Like Power BI, the whole business model was this kind of like self-service buffet. $10 a month gets you as much as you can eat. And now a lot of people are talking about technologies that make sense if you're paying for an F64 with 5 grand per month. And so sometimes there's a disconnect in the audience and the topics there.
yeah. I think they're changing model down to like lower SKUs.
Yeah,
As
you can.
definitely you can do a lot on the lower SKUs. And
I've seen people do some interesting stuff on an F2 for sure. I think I feel bad for like the smaller businesses that maybe like feel like they're getting gently nudged towards Fabric and are trying to figure out is it worth that cost? But if you're clever, especially since you can pause the capacity, there's a lot you can do on the lower end for sure.
yeah, and I think it's interesting. I think from an industry perspective, there are different sectors in the industry that have got a different perception of cost. And
I'm sorry. I used to be a SQL DBA, so I totally agree because like okay, on the Power BI side, when people are used to $10 per month, now 14, and you tell them 5,000, they balk. But if you tell people how much enterprise cores cost, you know, they would lose their minds
and and
because it's just
and
nothing compared, you know, like
and that relation to mainframes like is another order of magnitude. And
yeah,
I think this is where like we did a slight digression here. We did an evaluation of all the sort of soft sort of SaaS platforms we were using for doing SQL
yeah,
bits, and without Azure, like we were hitting 10 grand a year, like just like, and that's just like lots of little bits. And
yeah,
so I think the realization is that like if you're running a business that is of like a moderate size, you should be spending a moderate amount on IT and data infrastructure. And I think they've got the pricing around right for like how it maps to industries and sizes of companies.
yeah,
Uh, um, but yeah,
yeah.
like,
I think
it'll be interesting to
there's
see
some
how it plays
frustration
out.
in the community. I think with some of it again, just because the same thing you talked about. There's all this focus on the new and shiny, and you have so many people that are just using plain Power BI and they're happy, and say like the updates to the core visuals has been slower than they want, right? But yeah, it's challenging to figure this stuff out, especially from a conference side, because so I use a feed reader called Feedly to follow blogs and all this kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it used to be that I had people in their neat little boxes. I had my SQL Server folks, my Power BI folks, Azure folks, all this stuff, and I've given up at this point. I just have Microsoft data and miscellaneous data because because people have become more spread out in the topics that they cover. I've become more spread out. Like I'm on my first paid Fabric project, and I don't want to be, but I also want to pay my mortgage. And I was very happy specializing in Power BI, but it's becoming harder and harder to do that.
Yeah, and there's a conversation on distributionists I'm on about the impact on AI, and as a business you're running
Yeah.
that builds software, data, whatever, where does AI change things? And um, I think my response was along the lines of, well, like what happened when you started not having to buy hardware? Like what happened when you started not having to have
Mm.
somebody run MSIs to install stuff because you could now do it like way easier from an automation perspective. And I think that the point is you can just focus on different things. You can just focus your level higher and get more stuff done. And I think
Well,
there will be.
that's a good question though. Are you planning on doing any sessions on that higher level? Because so one of the things I've been trying to use AI, and one of the things that I've found is that one of those some of those meta skills that you need now to work with AI is discernment, taste, and experience. Because you're much more acting like a manager for this, you know, automated idiot that'll try to
Teenager,
do
I
what you
think
want it
is
to.
yeah.
And you have to be able to look at the results and say, no, that's good or that isn't. Like, to give you an example, I've been working on benchmarks to see how well LLMs can do DAX. And so I've been doing some testing,
Ooh.
and I tried using agent mode because Microsoft just released the Power BI MCP server, Model Context Protocol server, so that the AI can talk directly to the model and run DAX queries. and I said, "Hey, write this DAX for me." And what it did is it basically did a switch statement, and then for every single line, it had the filter. So imagine the same sort of thing as like in SQL. If you had this 5-part switch statement, and then you had a giant if in each one of them, because I wanted it to return different columns depending on which multiple choice question was selected. Where if it was a little bit smarter, it would have moved it up. That's fine. I'm happy to have a very cheap automated idiot, but you have to be smart enough to say, this is crap, do better. And so, how do you teach people to have taste? How do you teach people to have discernment with this stuff like that? Maybe I should submit that as a session.
Well, so there there are two big topics that we're wanting to get on board this year. One is
Mm,
um, AI in general, building AI platforms. So
yeah,
like whether you're doing any sort of RAG or semantic or agentic AI for your business, like that side of delivering business value. But the other side is you as an engineer, how do you use AI to help you do better, like build
mm,
stuff quicker, like cheaper,
yeah,
whatever. Um, and that whole how do you work with um, your your co-pilot, whatever you want to call it,
yeah, right,
um,
yeah,
um, is a real skill. And I think like, my experience of DAX is there's not enough corpus of quality on the internet, which means that like you're getting bad quality because there's just not enough. It's just not broad enough.
yeah.
That's my take on it. And it'll be interesting to see how things
Yeah,
develop
maybe
over
I'll have to
time.
submit something on the benchmarking, but that's been accurate. So the early like preliminary numbers, I think GPT-5 in high reasoning mode and Gemini 3 did fairly well on a lot of tasks, but a lot of the models got basic syntax errors. So what I was doing is I have multiple choice questions, but I also have live query questions where I say, "Hey, do this," and then I run it against AdventureWorks in SSAS, still relevant, and I compare it to my human result of what it's supposed to be. And you would be, well, maybe you wouldn't be shocked, but a lot of the models can't even pass the hurdle of writing correct DAX because it is this domain specific language. Although I don't know, even they struggle with T SQL sometimes, and that's not very
I,
as domain specific.
I think most humans can't write DAX, can they? It's like
No,
there's
no. I think
there's
you
only,
have to be, if you're Italian, it helps. I think there's something with like the O's and the A's at the end that helps you understand DAX. I'm not
okay.
sure.
Wow, you just got. I think to the point of experience. Like clearly, there's a lot of experience in Italy in this regard, and therefore, like they can do it well. And I think it's a real interesting thing about like what's right and whether AI capabilities in the data space are different. Like, slight digression again. I hate writing English. I hate writing text because
Sure,
there's no
sure.
black and white answer. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably on the spectrum somewhere, and therefore I like black and white. Give me an answer that's 1 + 1 is 2. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
like if I've got to describe like sentiment of stuff, like just can't. I really struggled. Um, and where am I going? I was going somewhere. Clearly got
You were talking about how
distracted.
you don't like English because it's squishy and soft and
Oh yeah. So if you're writing code, if you're writing C# code, like and
yeah,
your code, like it's quite black and white. Like
it
it will,
compiles.
yeah,
Human
it
English doesn't
compiles and runs.
compile.
And the difference is like of it running. It generally will run the correct thing.
Yeah.
However, in data, there's so much meaning in the data itself
Yeah.
that understanding that is not just about the language, it's about like give me the revenue for
There's
the business, give me the all those meanings, like becomes a lot harder to convey. Um,
every single business is a snowflake and they all define stuff differently. And I learned this the hard way at a previous job where I had to migrate our data from a bunch of different systems to an ERP system written by another fire protection company in VB6 and MySQL and Classic ASP. That's a part of my life I don't like to remember. And it was very, very challenging because I, as a dumb 20 something, assumed, oh, well, they're in the same industry. They probably handle the stuff the same. And you get 1,000 paper cuts on, oh, well, we schedule our technicians 1 week at a time. And oh, well, we schedule our technicians a month at a time. Or, oh, when we are receiving inventory and it's a partial receipt, we create a new PO or a new receivings. Well, we just make it a child item. And it's just all these sorts of things. So you're right. It's more challenging with data. I think there's something in there that you said that I think, tying back to SQL Bits, one of the things that I deeply appreciate about SQL Bits is you cover stuff about the human aspect. So not only do you talk about like the neurodiversity thing, because I know I went into IT because I was bad with people. And now as a consultant, I get paid a lot of money to be good with people, whether I like it or not. And so not only talking about that kind of neurospiciness sort of thing, but also just the interpersonal kind of stuff. Because most BI projects fail before a single line of code is written because people fail at the requirements gathering step. They fail to understand what success looks like. You know. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you have stuff on that. Good.
and that's a big drive again this year is making sure that it's all about people being successful in doing like in the industry, and so
Yeah.
like this isn't about like fluffy woke stuff about like supporting certain people. Like there is a fundamental need to understand people and how people work, so that like whether it's like yeah how to
We're
win friends and
different.
influence
Like
people. Everyone's different, and like yeah, if you
it
can
was it was eye opening for me. So some people have described the Meyer-Briggs type indicator as astrology for men, which maybe is a bit accurate because it is kind of wishy-washy pseudoscience to a certain degree. But I found it immensely helpful at my last job because I did not have a well-developed sense of empathy. Just, I never had a good theory of mind of other people. I was stuck in my own head too much. And to have something spelled out and seeing people self-identify as introvert versus extrovert, or detail thinker versus, big picture thinker, or more of a feelings person, or more of a like blunt, literal kind of person, really helped me understand that different people are different and how we work with them or interact with them is a big deal. And even just understanding basic accommodations. So for me, I wouldn't say misphonia, but I am physically incapable of filtering out sound very well. So if you're chewing with your mouth next to me or you're having a loud conversation next to me in a restaurant, I have a very hard time physically not eavesdropping or not hearing. And so for me, I make an accommodation where I have noise canceling headphones. One of the joys of being self employed is I just look in the mirror and say, "Boss, can I have those?" And he says, "Yeah." And then I just buy them. But, you know, there's little things that allow people to thrive in their environment when we're willing to go with the wood grain of their soul, with the wood grain of their physiology. And like when you're only focused on, hey, Fabric has SQL Server mirroring now, you miss some of that.
yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, on the SQL Bits front, we tried like building rooms like
Yeah.
in venues because like we wanted to have more session rooms, and like past 2 years or this year and next year coming, we're going back to physical rooms because I couldn't get the sound to a level that meant that people could focus well enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there was, I thought it was good and I thought it was okay-ish, but there was enough distractors, enough people that like felt it was a challenge that we decided that we needed to sort of unpick that one.
Yeah.
But and on a similar front, I was watching a session a couple of weeks ago, and one of the speakers said like the music that was being played when she went into a session room to do to speak was distracting, and it just meant that she
Mm.
just couldn't focus. So as a result of that, this year, what we're going to do is speakers are going to be able to say what they want in their session room when they start, because
Oh,
as a
nice.
speaker, you need to be able to be in the zone to deal with that
Yeah.
situation. If there's something that's going on that's like getting in the way, then you're just not going to be prepared. You're not going to be set up well enough to deliver your content for 50 minutes. So those little things are definitely what we're trying to do. Um, so yeah, it's it,
Yeah.
it's all
So,
about choice.
so we've got another 10 minutes or so. Is there anything else you want to talk about with some of the challenges? It's, with figuring out what stuff to cover, or just helping educate people, because like, I don't know about you, but keeping up with technology has become kind of infuriating. I 7 or 8 years ago, I gave a session at the Group Buy online conference. Oh, maybe not 7 or 8 years. Maybe, yeah, about keeping up with technology. And I thought I had a good sense of it. Like, for stuff that changes slowly, invest deeply, like people skills and internals, and stuff that changes quickly, invest lightly, and all this kind of stuff. But you know, Ignite just happened, and the all the announcements gives me a minor existential crisis.
I talk
Just
about
all this,
yeah,
yeah,
talk
all the
about
stuff
move
I'm
my
supposed to keep up
cheese.
with.
It's like
Yeah.
oh,
And then there's just all this AI nonsense on top. So am I supposed to be learning whether to use Claude Code or OpenAI or Gemini on top of learning Fabric, on top of trying to keep up with Power BI? So like, how do you think about like how to educate people, how to help people with this struggle, because it's a huge pain.
I think there's a strong message that I want to get across this year, which is trying to get speakers to help attendees understand what is enough. Like
Yeah.
it's enough to like choose Fabric. It's enough to go right. Yeah, just use notebooks. If you want Python and like, you want to do things in notebooks, fine. You don't need to do data flows or Gentoo or any of those things. Like if you're happy in that space and you can do what you need to do, like then so be it. And I think there's some
Yeah.
interesting points of and I think this is where Fabric has some challenges. Is like there's a many ways to skin a cat, and
Yep.
like lots of those cats skinning exercises ended up with frustrations when you end up like only half achieving what you want to achieve, and so it becomes frustrating. And um, the,
Yeah. Like,
the
I'll give you an example. For this customer project I've been on, we had to get data from an SFTP server. And I'm like, well, I love Power Query. Let's use Power Query. Power Query doesn't have an SFTP connector. Okay, fine. We'll use pipelines. Pipelines has an SFTP connector. Well, it does, but the ADF version, you can use an SSH key for authentication. For the pipelines version, you can't. So you die a thousand deaths by all these paperclip or paper cut kind of issues. And to be fair to the team, they're getting better. Like FabCon Vienna, there was a lot of quality of life kind of stuff, and they're working on parity. But trust isn't always there with that, because at the same time they're like, hey, we just added Postgres, we're adding Cosmos DB, we're adding this, we're adding that. And so, if I had a magic wand, I would just have Microsoft like take a deep breath, spend 6 months on just all of these quality of life sort of things. But, there's a reason I'm not a CEO. Um,
one of my most pleasing things I saw yesterday was the fact that like, this is a really small step, but they killed Web Edition for SQL Server, and like
mm,
Express Edition has now only got one SKU, not two SKUs.
oh,
And
okay.
I do feel like that choice thing, like let's try and let's try and get rid of the 10 different ways of doing a SQL database in the cloud. Like, okay, we now got SQL in Fabric, SQL Azure. Like managed instance, hyper
Yeah.
serverless, like SQL on the VM. Like there's many different ways, and that's a big challenge. And Um, I think with a lot of these things, I think a lot of people have to realize that they don't need to follow the curve, like to be successful and deliver successful projects. Almost your point about the slow change and the fast change. Like
Yeah.
most of the reasons that projects succeed are due to the slow change stuff, the people, the
Yep.
process, the
Yep.
the analysis stuff.
Yeah.
Not
People don't change very quickly. It turns out that like interpersonal skills were an issue 100 years ago and 1,000 years ago and back in ancient Sumeria. Like,
yeah,
there's one other thing I want to touch on real quick about SQL Bits before we kind of wrap up. So, I just recorded an episode with Shannon Lindsay about just community in general. And one of the things that we talked about was stuff's in a weird place right now where online interaction with people just feels kind of scattered to the seven winds, and people are sick and tired of online kind of conferences and stuff because, people are tired of remote stuff. And so it's a weird place where, while I haven't been going to as much in person stuff as I would like or as I used to before the pandemic, one of my goals for 2026 is I want to go to 3 or 4 different conferences if I can swing it. And a big part of this, I get to see my friends and I get to see other speakers and talk with people. Do you want to talk a bit about some of the social opportunities with SQL Bits? Because I think you're known for one of the big things is you guys like to throw a big, or you all like to throw a big party and all that, but you also have stuff for us introverts too.
yeah, 100%. I mean, I think um, a big belief of Secrets is about like connecting people and networking, and it's really hard to do that across the event, and therefore um, we run evening events to enable people to do that. And what so Wednesday night we have a board games evening. Thursday night we have a pub quiz. Friday
Yeah.
night we have a big party, and it's all about trying to get people to connect. And we're on a call. So one of the things we do is also during the event is we have a group of helpers that work with the like helping moderating sessions. So the people moderating sessions are people from the industry, just general people like you and me. Um,
Yeah.
there are some uber ones of those that are buddies that basically will run sessions for people before the conference so that people can ask questions and meet people and be familiar with what's going on. And we had a call with those people yesterday, and there's some great ideas about like how we can just like enhance those experiences, those evening network experiences, to give people more
Yeah.
ability to connect. Like I've been to conferences and I don't know anyone, and it's really hard. I mean, everyone thinks I'm quite like extrovert and can go and talk to people, but if
Yeah.
you take me to a new space, like I will be like I'll go and sit in a corner, like and
Yeah.
whereas if we can have some way of facilitating like that's not in your face, nice and gentle, and works with people, um, then hopefully that will help people connect. It's a real big thing for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's wrap up with a few questions. So normally, I ask people about their most favorite and least favorite fabric feature, but I know that's not your specialty.
Oh
So
no,
if you want
I
to,
can
if
give
you
you a
want to
few.
answer that for SQL Server, you're more than
I
welcome
can.
to. You got
Uh,
stuff on fabric, please.
yeah, I mean, I love Power Query. I mean,
Yeah.
I've gone down many rabbit holes with Power Query and Power BI land. So, like having Gen 2 data flows, like and stuff
Well, you just
in,
click the stuff, you can see what the data looks like, and it just goes.
but then like on exactly the same point, like back to what we were talking about before, my frustration then is like you run one of those things and it's a black box. Like
Yeah.
whereas if I've got a pipeline, like I get to see progress, like see stages and stuff. Whereas like
Well, and
like
it's a black box by design because of query folding, because it's a functional programming language. So, I mean, you probably already know this, but the whole idea is it's a declarative language. So you tell it what you want and it decides how to get there. And it will ignore things you tell it to do if it doesn't need it. So a demo I love to do is I will have a SQL query and I'll read data from a stored procedure, and the stored procedure will just be like return one, wait for 2 seconds. And I'll do a merge, and then at the very end I'll remove that column. And because it's not in the output, it never calls the stored procedure. So
Yeah,
it is
and,
very declarative.
and I think that is one of the, if you ever come from a programming background, like it's a functional programming like
Yeah.
approach, which I don't think many people appreciate what that
No.
actually means. There's some. I love the fact that you can write functions, declare functions, and execute like that whole thing is just I find like geekily beautiful. Um, but yeah, the downside is you don't get these other things, and and it's like that's the
Yeah.
trade-off, isn't it?
Quick promotion for my colleague Ben Grabaudo. He's doing some deep dives on Power Query in January, and I've taken his deep dives before, and he spends a couple of days going pretty deep into the engine, all that kind of stuff. So if people want to try to learn the black box, that's one way to do it. But yeah, you just tell it to run, and you're like, I hope it's working.
And
Um,
if talking about AI, like you got a customer at the moment that some
yeah,
very
yeah,
junior engineers, like if you go chat GPT on Power Query, oh my goodness me, it can generate you some stuff. And like, yeah, it's definitely not simple. It's definitely on the advanced level. Like,
it can do some really powerful stuff. I've also had it where I told it, hey, I want you to rename these columns to these columns. And what it did was it did 12 lines of add new column with the name and the data type. So it depends a lot on the model and that kind of stuff. But
but that doesn't
um,
matter because it's all folded in. So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh no.
So last question. Where can people find you online? And bit of an obvious one. Do you have anything to like pitch or promote?
Wow. I wonder. So yeah, obviously, SQL Bits is coming in April 2026 in Wales, and call for papers will be open by the time this comes out. So if you want to submit a session, then go to sqlbits.com and look for the speak link and find out how you can submit a session. See if you can join the other
Nice.
450 odd people that submit sessions. That's the hardest thing talking about content. Like
Oh yeah.
we get 10 times more sessions than we need. Like that's a lot of filtering. But it is
Yep.
what it is.
Yep. Cool. Well, thank you, sir. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
It's been lovely. Thank you very much, Eugene. And
All right.
hope you see you at Superbits.
Hopefully.